Hello, this is my Elemental Slayer build for my Trials team setup. This goes very well with the other roles that I have created. Please check those videos out on my channel. I have a Trials team playlist folder on there. Check those videos out. These builds all go together. Um, so it's important to keep that in mind when looking at this build. It's intended to go with these other builds to kind of completely add to your group's damage. So let's go over the build real quick here. I'm running War Machine and the Elemental Catalyst set, as you can see here, as well as the Incradius Behemoth monster set. Thief Mundus Stone, all 64 points into Magicka. Let's go into the skills. I have Inner Light slotted on the front bar. This gives me 7% more Max Magicka when it's leveled up all the way. Still working on that. So as of right now, it's only 5% more Max Magicka. That will get bigger as this levels up. You don't use this skill. It's simply slotted there to give you the Major Prophecy and Savagery buff, as well as increasing your mag recovery and your max mag. So this is just a don't use it skill. This is Winter's Revenge from the Warden skill line. I guess I should probably go over my classes that I have on here. Gravelord from Necromancer, Ardent Flame from Dragon Knight, and Winter's Embrace from the Warden. So those three are what I've chosen for this build. So we'll get back into this. So the Winter's Revenge is an AoE frost damage, keeping up frost damage on enemies for the extra 5% crit from frost damage with the Elemental Catalyst set. This is a spammable of sorts. This heals you, and it puts a flame dot on the enemy. So it's a pretty cheap skill to use. The other thing about Burning Embers, this is really important to remember. This warmth passive right here, when you deal direct damage with a Ardent Flame ability, it makes your damage over time attacks increase by 6%. So everything else on the build that's damage over time is going to get a 6% buff from just using the Burning Embers, because it has that initial hit, which is direct damage, that's going to proc. And as long as you hit this every 6 seconds, this passive right here, or excuse me, every 3 seconds, this passive right here is going to stay up. Very good passives here for an EC build. You have increased burning, increased damage over time, and then you've got increased fire as well here. So next skill we have is the Unnerving Boneyard. This does frost damage as well as applying Major Breach and Minor Vulnerability. Then I have another mage's skill here to help increase Max Magicka and Mag Recovery on the build. So we have a fire dot, essentially. It's the flame and then Lingering Torment, and then this gives me Minor Force. So this is sort of a quasi replacement for Barb Trap. Think of it that way, except for a Magicka version. It doesn't do bleed damage, but bleed does not work with Elemental Catalyst, so I chose fire. This right here is on my front bar, so that when I give everybody Major Slayer, I'm also inflicting Major Vulnerability. So they get the 10% from War Machine, and they get another 10% from this. So that's a 20% increase to damage when this hits. So on the back bar, I have Expansive Frost Cloak. And the reason why I have this on the build is because I chose Winter's Embrace, and I didn't want to have my tanks and healers picking this line just to run this. For healers, this line is absolute garbage for healers to run. There's no reason whatsoever for a healer to run this skill. There's no benefit from this skill line for a healer at all. This right here is increased shield status, and it's based on your weapon damage. Healers don't have a lot of weapon damage. This is not going to hit hard on a healer. Physical resistance and spell resistance, they're just not necessary. This right here is inflicting major maim when you get hit with melee and direct damage. This doesn't happen to healers unless your tanks are dead, and if your tanks are dead, you're probably dead anyway. And then you have an increased block damage and frost damage. Again, it's just not a good healer skill line. And after going through all the other class tank lines, I didn't feel this was as strong as the Necromancer, Arcanist, and Dragon Knight lines. So I did not want to use this as a tank personally, and I wouldn't expect anybody else to, just for the simple fact of running this. But because I chose this for my DPS, because this has the extra frost damage here as well as the Winter's Revenge, and I figured, well, you know what, this right here is a real easy throw in for this build, and so you can handle the major resolve for everybody really easily on this. This is my major brutality and sorcery resource. The archer also does pretty decent damage, so that's why that is there. If you do choose the shock damage, it's not the shock morph, I should say. It's not as helpful as you think for keeping up shock damage. For one, it's only a single target, and it just doesn't. It's not reliable. Let's put it that way. I have Gravelord's Sacrifice on the back bar here to increase dot damage by 15%. And then Blockade of Storms, I have a Shock Staff on the back bar to handle shock damage on this build. And then my last skill before I go into some demonstrations here, Engulfing Flames is a good fire dot that hits in an AoE. It also increases everybody's fire damage by 6%. This is simply here to again boost magic damage, or excuse me, magic resources on the back bar. In most cases, I'm going to be firing my front bar ultimate because I have War Machine on the front bar, and so Shooting Star is there just for buffing back bar passives. But most of the time, I'm going to be on my front bar on this build. But just to show you a couple of other things here, I am running a Precise Flame Staff on the front bar. This increases your status effects and your dot damage by 12% to run an Inferno Staff. So that is why I have a Flame Staff on the front bar for this. Ancient Knowledge right there. The first one is Inferno Staffs, increasing your status effect damage as well as your damage over time. So a lot of percentage boosts here for damage over time. There's the 15% to frost damage. There's the 10% from rapid rot. When the Gravelords, let's just get everything buffed up so we can look at the character screen here. Major resolve, major brutality and sorcery. Get that going. Okay, so pretty good crit, okay penetration. this right here is the big thing. You want to keep your recoveries up as high as you can. Um, this is again not one of those builds that you're going to do a ton of damage with. It's mainly intended to buff your group. So this, with the Powerful of Zen build, will give you Major Slayer as well as the 15% damage from Elemental Catalyst, and that's pretty much it for the build. So I'm providing 15% critical damage from EC, major vulnerability, and then War Machine helps your healers not have to run Rojo. That's huge. Rojo's kind of a pain in the butt to run. It's a lot easier if you can just heal and focus on mechanics and all that rather than trying to remember, okay, has it been long enough to backbar heavy attack two times to apply Major Slayer? This is a lot easier to run. I have an Maelstrom Lightning Staff on the back bar in case I didn't cover that. Let me go over the CP. I always start with Fighting Finesse, and then depending on what type of build I'm running, either Thermatug or Master of Arms. If you have damage over time, pick this one. If you're more of a direct damage build like the Arcanist Beam, you want to use this instead. Area of Effect always on these builds are mostly Area of Effect, and then Exploiter. The Red Tree, again, always these two over here. I have Spirit Mastery to help res faster. As a DPS, you should be doing this, not your healers or tanks. If you don't res somebody and your healer has to do it, you lose out on your heals, and then you die while they're resing. Make sure you res and let your heal you while you're doing that. Siphoning spells is the last one there. Let's see here. Mundus. I have the Thief. And then for food, I'm running Ghastly Eyeball. So make sure you have all that stuff to run your build, make it easier. This right here is really helpful. It keeps your burning status up. The rest of this is it works really well, especially paired with the Powerful Zen build. I mean, those two support roles right there will really increase the damage of your group, and each one of them have unique damage increasing sets, and they complement everything really well. So keep that in mind. Thank you for watching. I will make some more videos here on the other roles in my Trials team write-up. Check out my channel and all the playlists for the other categories of videos I have about the Elder Scrolls Online. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.